Well, the competition is underway. Good morning and welcome to Sunup. I'm Clint Griffiths. The theme is Take Me Back to Tulsa, and so that's exactly what we did at the National Junior Hereford Expo, held at the Tulsa State Fairgrounds in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's billed as the world's largest Hereford event. We'll have more on the expo later in the show, but first we start with Sunup's Austin Moore, who found his way to a vineyard for some grape growing tips.
Grapes may not be what most people think of when you think Oklahoma agriculture, but vineyards are becoming an increasing part of that agricultural landscape here in the state. Here to talk about that is our Extension Fruit and Nut Specialist, Eric Stafne. Eric, how you doing today?
Great, good morning.
Good. Talk to us a little bit about the industry, about where this is in terms of our state.
Well, the industry's really grown in the last 10 years or so. We started out with maybe about 3 wineries. Now we're up over 50 within the state. Acreage was very small, but now we're over 600 acres and continuing to grow at a steady pace.
Now, as we head into the summertime, not just the vineyards, there's a lot of folks who just grow a few vines on their place.
Sure.
What are some things they need to be looking out for?
Well, this is a very interesting time of year because this is the time when the fruit starts to color. That's called veraison, and that's the French term for this process. So this is when the fruit goes from green and unappealing to colored and very enticing. So the sugar level goes way up, and this is what you're hoping to get for your finished product. And so managing that and keeping the vine healthy during this time is important. You can see here on this there's a little bit of disease started. Some of these berries have gotten shriveled. That's probably caused by a disease known as black rot. But once these clusters reach a certain sugar level, about 8–10% sugar, that disease is no longer an issue, but there are other diseases that need to be taken care of at this time as well.
Any other big problems we've seen this summer?
This summer we've seen a lot of issues like poor pollination. This is an indication of poor pollination where the fruit fails to set. You get these little shot berries, what they're called here. They just generally will fall off. It's not a big detriment, but if you have a lot of it, that could be a concern. So you won't get a full crop. Exactly, right. Exactly. So another issue we've had is bunch stem necrosis, where it dies back from the tip, and it'll continue to die back. We don't know the cause of that, but we think it's probably environmental.
So now, herbicide damage, you said that's part of a problem. What does that look like?
I've never really been to a vineyard without seeing some herbicide damage in Oklahoma. And the most common one is from 2,4-D. And so 2,4-D can drift quite a ways, and in fact, we don't know where this comes from, but you see this deformed leaves, that's called an epinasty. And the leaves, the more severe they get, the smaller they become. So like this is at a stage where it's almost the end point of the damage. Does it do extensive damage? It can, but generally something like this is fairly not permanent. It won't damage the vine too much. So next year it'll come back and be fine. But we see this problem every year.
So now we make it through the summer, we get through the heat, we're coming into the fall. What do the vine owners need to be looking out for?
One thing you really need to do is watch out for certain diseases. So things like powdery mildew might come in late in the season when it cools off. You want to control that. And also make sure the vines are well watered going into the fall. You don't want it to be in a stress state. The key is to reduce stress going into the cold winter, fall time periods when the fluctuating temperatures are very demanding on the vines.
Now what about if you're just establishing, I mean this is obviously a pretty well established vineyard here. What if you're just establishing your vines? What do you need to be looking for there?
Well, we've got a new vineyard over there. Let's go take a look.
All right, let's go. So now Eric, how old is this vine?
This vine was actually planted this spring in March or April, early April. So it's grown quite a bit this year. It's really nice, and this is the kind of growth you would hope to see in a first-year vine. But one issue here you can see is this thing. It's a plastic tube that goes around there. These are generally called grow tubes, okay. And they kind of help make the top part of the vine grow faster and straighter. Well, a lot of growers will use this, but one of the issues is that you have to remove this in the fall or late summer, so that vine in there can harden off and get used to the cooler temperatures.
Okay. So right now it's kind of protected, sort of insulated because of that
Yeah, what we do, we use it mainly to protect against herbicide injury or rabbits or some other varmint chewing on it. But it's very important that this is removed. Some growers will pull it up just so that there's some space under there and air can move through.
Okay.
That's okay, but it's not as good as removing
pulling it
it.
off completely.
And then if you want to put it on the next year, you can
Okay.
in the spring.
And that'll help it harden up and get ready for that tough Oklahoma winter.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, Eric, we sure appreciate your help today. This is very enlightening. And
You're welcome.
I hope to talk about it more in the future.
Anytime.